The opening race of the F1 2026 season is finally done, and we clearly know how the season is gonna pan out. There are some good things to talk about, bad things to talk about. I am the grid guy. Let's quickly dive into the race review, shall we? Alright, so first of all, welcome to the Grid Guys Race Review podcast. And there were quite some memorable moments during the race, and there were quite a few things which came out to be true, and we will talk everything about it. But in my podcast, I have broken down the scenarios and what happened in the race into different highlights or different memorable moments. So yeah, without any delay or without any beating around the bush, let's quickly get into it. So to start with, we definitely have to talk about Oscar Piastri. I mean, it was his home race. He was backed by his fans, and he had a huge heartbreak last year, if you remember, when he just went onto the grass, and he had the potential to win the race, but then he could only finish 9th. And when the practice session started, he was looking very good. He was right up there in the time sheets, and even in the long runs, he was doing very well actually. And he was keeping up with both the Mercedes and the Ferrari. And yeah, he qualified well, decent place to finish and start with 5th. And even before the race started, he just crashed, so that was not ideal. It was very heartbreaking for me as a fan to see it as well, because they go to the grid, and when he was on his way to the grid, he just had his cold tires. And yeah, I mean, even after the race, I saw the press conference from Piastri, and he was like, in the media pen, he said the tires were cold and he blamed it 50-50 on the car and 50 on himself, where he clipped the curb on the cold tires, but also he had a massive surge in the torque, which was completely the blame on the engine. That's what he refers to. But yeah, whatever it is, it was so sad to see him crash out even before the race started in his home race. And that's, I think, the Australian curse goes on. And I think Piastri was the one who was going to break it, but eventually it did not happen. And I think we still have to wait, and the wait still goes on to see the first Australian on the podium, or at least contention for the race win. But it was horrible to see. I mean, I might understand how it should be for the Piastri fans, hardcore Piastri fans, in the different parts of the world, where, for example, you live in Europe or you live in the West, and you wake up so early in the morning to cheer for your driver, but then you see he's not even starting the race after qualifying decently with the top cars. So I hope he comes back strong. I mean, from what we know of Oscar Piastri, his mind strength is unreal, and I think he'll bounce back in China like he did last year when he had that heartbreak and he eventually won the sprint and the race in the second season. So I wouldn't give up on him. He's going to be back. And to the other highlight of the race start, especially the launch from those Ferrari cars. My God, it was massive, it was insane, it was tremendous. I mean, now during the Bahrain testing, there was a talk on the Ferrari car and how they had a good race start. And yeah, there was also this talk of how they have this small turbo and how it is helping them to sort of get these good starts in the race. And then 1 year ago, Ferrari protested this, that the starts would be dangerous in the next regulations, and then the other teams did not care. And finally now Ferrari figured out they can do it with a small turbo. And then when the other teams started protesting that the race starts are dangerous and that's a recipe for a disaster, Ferrari blocked those protests, saying that we have figured it out. We know what to do, how to start the race. And they also said that we need not rev the car so high like the other teams are doing. This drama was so much in Bahrain. And then once the testing was done, there was also talks that the teams have eventually caught up to Ferrari, and the grid is even now in terms of starts. But that was not the case. I mean, Charles, he started 4th, and then Lewis was 7th in the qualifying. And then when the race started, by the end of lap 1, turn 1, Leclerc was leading the race, and then Hamilton was 3rd. That tells you the start that they had during the race. And I think, for me, like in the next few races, the teams will eventually catch up, like by the end of 7th race or 8th race. But at least for now, if they qualify in top 5, both the Ferrari cars, I think they have a massive advantage. They have this ability to sort of lead the race. Let's take some tracks, for example, China, and then let's take Bahrain or Saudi. We don't know if the races are going to happen there, but ideally, if you take those tracks, that's well suited for Ferrari. I mean, you have a few meters ahead to take the first corner, and then the turbo kicks in for the Ferrari. And that's the live example of what we had today in the Australian Grand Prix. That race start, I mean, I'm still buzzing with the race start, and they are going to have a massive advantage if they qualify at least in top 5, or in that case top 6 or top 7. And along with that, Ferrari now looks like the second best clearly, and also like the closest competitor to Mercedes, because I thought, okay, they had a good launch, and now Russell and Antonelli, they will just breeze past those two Ferraris. But that did not happen. I mean, Leclerc was fighting with Russell for the win, for the actual win. Russell overtakes Leclerc, and then Leclerc overtakes Russell again. This was very exciting to watch until the VSC came down, and yeah, Ferrari did their actual Ferrari things, and they had to just mess up the strategy, didn't they? I mean, even Hamilton at one point said that one of them had to come in to pit and change the tires, but Ferrari did not do it for whatever reason. But for me, at that point of time, I instantly went back to the 2022 season, where Ferrari was the contender for the title and they had a very strong car, but the strategic mistakes they did that season, and the initial part of the season where they had to just mess up races for Charles Leclerc, and yeah, that eventually cost him the championship, or it would have been a close fight, at least according to me, between Verstappen and Leclerc. So I felt the glimpses of it watching today's race, because if they had pit under the virtual safety car, there would have been a very exciting battle between the Mercedes and Ferrari. I mean, both Leclerc and Hamilton looked really strong. Like, they were right up there with the pace, and that's one of the bad predictions I did, where I thought Ferraris would fall off in the race stream at least, and Mercedes would just walk the win. But that was not actually the case. The Ferrari is looking really strong with the race pace as well, and with this kind of race starts that they have, if they fix their strategic problems, and I think the reliability point of view looks good for them, at least when compared to the other teams. If they operationally become more proactive and they fix those problems, I think Mercedes will have a big headache this season. I don't know as the season progresses eventually how the teams will catch up. I'm not looking at the big picture, but for now, at least in the next few races starting season, yeah, Ferrari is right up there. Second best clearly, and they are very, very close to Mercedes if they manage their operational problems and if they manage to fix their strategic blunders. And also to mention, Lewis Hamilton is back, I feel. I mean, he was very much close to Leclerc and the hammer time was spot on during the later stint of the race. I mean, the start of the race, he had a good start. He caught up with the Mercedes. He was trying to challenge Russell, and then the VSC came in and they had to fall off. But then he caught up Leclerc when there were 10 laps left, or like last few laps, and then he was just within a few tenths of Leclerc. So we saw last season how he was struggling when compared to Leclerc, both in qualifying and in races, but he was right there. I think the engine formula regulations or these kind of regulations suit him very well, and I'm very, very happy to see Lewis Hamilton back at his best. I mean, yeah, Leclerc is the Ferrari, but Hamilton, to adapt so quickly and also to challenge Leclerc at the end, shows his mental strength and how he has bounced back, at least from the last season, because that was horrible to watch in 2025. And watching him compete against Leclerc now, it's going to be very exciting team battle. I mean, when we just take the context of Ferrari, the teammates battle, I think it's going to be close between Leclerc and Hamilton. And yeah, something saying me that Lewis Hamilton is going to have a very good season and he's going to get a few wins. I'll be bold here. He's going to get a few wins this season. So moving on to the third highlight of the race, and that's obviously Mercedes. I mean, yeah, let's start with the qualifying. The sandbagging was real from them, and I think they are the team to beat at this moment. They clearly are the best team on the grid right now. And then, yeah, talking about the qualifying, Q1, Q2, I think Ferraris were right up there, and then there was also Oscar Piastri, and then Lando was there quite a bit in Q2, and then, yeah, they just had to do it in Q3, didn't they? The sandbags were off, and then, my God, it was 8 tenths to the next best team. I was like, this is 2014 all over again. And yeah, that was a nightmare to watch. At least the domination for Mercedes fans feels great, but yeah, I think it should be at least around 3 tenths or 4 tenths between the first and the second best teams. But when they turned their engines up, it was 8 tenths, almost a second to the next best car. I think Isaac Hadjar in Red Bull was third, and they were almost 1 second clear of the next best team. And that was scary. And then moving on to the race today, yeah, the Ferraris had a good start. They got the better of Mercedes, and then Russell and Leclerc had a tussle, and then the VSC was there. But then eventually Russell and Antonelli grabbed the first and the second place. And from that point of time, they were just cruising to the victory. I mean, especially Russell, the Mr. Consistent he is. There was no mistakes from him. He clearly has understood how to harvest the energy and how to play with the batteries in these regulations. And yeah, he had a comfortable victory with Kimi Antonelli coming home with P2. But overall, in general, I think the Mercedes is a beast at the moment. I mean, Ferrari will give them a bit of a headache, but Mercedes, man, I mean, they're way far ahead. The teams will catch up, but I don't know how much of a time it is going to take for them. It's a lot of gap. At least now in the qualifying, it's almost a second. But I still stick on to the fact that it depends on the track. It's a circuit-specific qualifying outcome. But then looking at what happened in the Australian Grand Prix, they are going to be there at least in the top two. If not pole, they are going to be in the front of the field. Like how McLaren was there in 2025, and then how Red Bull and Max Verstappen were there in 2023. I think it's a repeat of that. And yeah, they are best. And also in the race, the way they were harvesting the battery compared to the other teams, and how they could sort of do the recharge with harvesting, and the super clipping did not affect them much like it affected the other teams, and also especially their customer teams like McLaren. They are still trying to figure out how to deal with these deployments and how to play around with the Mercedes PO. But that's being the advantage of the works team. Like, you are the factory team and you build this PO, you know what to do with it and you understand it better. And yeah, fair play to them, fair play to George Russell, fair play to Kimi Antonelli and the whole team. They have built this car. I mean, yeah, the domination was there till 2021, and then they just fell off in the ground regulations, and the ground effect regulations hurt them really. And now they're back at their best, and I think they're gonna dominate for some time. At least, hopefully, Ferrari or Red Bull or McLaren, to that case, catch up and figure out how to bring the upgrades, and especially how to optimize the batteries and the PUs. Mercedes is the team to beat. And also, the fun fact what I observed is they were almost 50 seconds ahead of McLaren and Red Bull. So McLaren and Red Bull, these two were the teams, dominant teams in the last regulations. If you look at 2022, 2023, 2024 and 25, Red Bull has always been there, and then McLaren eventually became dominant in 23, 24 and 25. But now, in the change of these regulations, they are almost 50 seconds ahead of these two teams. And that tells you how the change in the regulations or the definition of new regulations set the precedence. And yeah, but then we saw the same in 2022. Ferrari and Red Bull were way ahead, and then McLaren eventually caught up. Mercedes managed to do it, but they were not consistent with that. That could be the case. And yeah, I am very happy for the team. For George Russell, I mean, he is clearly a very good driver, a better driver, but he did not have the car to do it. And he was criminally underrated for whatever reason. But yeah, now he clearly has the car, and if he doesn't crack under the pressure, and if the championship pressure doesn't get to him, which I think it won't, I think he'll be consistent. And the only thing that defines now for his championship, or in terms of the team's championship, is the reliability. They still have those hiccups even now compared to Ferrari, and Ferrari is a bit better in terms of reliability when compared to Mercedes. But then yeah, if the luck is on their side, I think Mercedes is gonna just dominate each and every race. I think the August ban doesn't affect them with the compression ratio thing and all those talks, but they will figure out, and they know what to do, and they just know how to sort of optimize each and every corners or the straights or the track layouts or any characteristics to that matter. And also a specific shout out to Kimi Antonelli. He had a bad start. He fell to P6, P5 if I'm not wrong, but then he eventually recovered very well to secure P2. From what I feel, the way he drove this race, I feel that he is gonna pull out a 2025 Oscar Piastri. I mean, when 2025 season started, Lando Norris was a huge favorite, and then no one really talked about Oscar. But then he was the guy who was leading the championship by the end of race 6 or race 7, and he had it for 15 consecutive rounds. And now this season, George Russell is a huge favorite, and then no one is really talking about Kimi. But I think he's gonna get it to Russell. He's gonna give it to Russell, saying that I am here in the team, I have the same car, and I can clearly see the repeat happening now with Mercedes, with what happened in McLaren with Lando and Oscar. So watch out for Kimi. He is there. This is something to watch out for, the team battle between them, and also the championship battle between them as well. So now the next memorable moment for me to talk about is how these new regulations look for the qualifying and for the race. So let's talk about qualifying first, which was yesterday. And yeah, I was looking at the onboards and something was not sitting with me so well. I mean, it was a bit uncomfortable looking at the cars. Like most of the cars, like how they used to do the super clipping, so they call it, in turn 9 and turn 10. That's one of the best chicanes in the whole calendar. And you want to see the cars just skidding and being at the absolute limit at those type of corners. And I saw the onboard of George Russell, and then I saw the onboard of Oscar Piastri exactly at that point of the at that place of the circuit where, yeah, it was just horrible. They just lift 400 meters to that corner and then they just need to harvest the energy or the battery. That's not ideal. And also for the fact that the battery dies before they even reach the corner. So the sector 2, especially in the Albert Park, is a long straight circuit, and then yeah, it was so painful to watch, because even if we take the cars from the ground effect era, let alone the turbo hybrid cars till 2021, those fast section chicanes was absolutely beautiful to watch, especially with those cars in qualifying going at that pace. I mean, in the onboards you feel it as a bit easy to go with, but then if you look at from the outside as a fan, that looks mega, and that was nothing in this qualifying. And also for me, see, the qualifying is where you just push the cars to absolute limit. You bring the best out of the talents in the drivers, and then you also sort of read the behavior of the cars, and you also see the errors from the drivers if they're on the absolute limit, both with the car and with their driving. And that's how qualifying is, or at least what I saw since 2000s, be it in the V8, V10s era, V6, the turbo hybrids, and also in the ground effect regulations. The qualifying was absolutely pace, raw speed, only pace. But then now, this qualifying, you see drivers slowing down at the corners to just harvest the battery. And even if they want to push, like I said, in turn 9 and turn 10 in the fast section chicane, they don't have the battery at all. And for me, when I was watching the qualifying, it looked like a load of BS, and something needs to be done in qualifying for me. Or that's not my opinion, that's generally the fans' opinion as well. They are being so critical and so harsh on these regulations and how they are being witnessed in the qualifying with these type of cars, and something needs to be done, at least like in qualifying. And now coming to the race, the overtaking modes, the excitement in the overtaking, the strategies that the drivers did with the battery was fun to watch, was exciting to watch. I am not gonna lie, but the qualifying was horrible. It was very, very bad. So I hope there will be some amendments to this. I hope there will be some changes or technical derivatives to how they can modify the usage of the PU or the battery in the qualifying for all these cars, and how it can be more fun to watch. At least for now, the race weekend looks okay. At least on Sunday, it looks fine. From what we saw, the battle between Mercedes and Ferrari, that was very exciting. And then the battle between Behrman and Lindblad, that was very fun to watch. One car overtakes and then the other car works with how strategizes how to harvest the battery, and then he overtakes again. So that was good to watch. And then we had Gasly versus Ocon. So Gasly overtakes once and then Ocon gets him back, but then Gasly gets him back again. And then we also saw Lando versus Max, where Lando was trying to defend from Verstappen. Initially Verstappen passed Lando, but then Lando had fresher tires, and even to that matter of fact Verstappen. But then Lando, as the race progressed, learned how to play with his batteries, and then he was able to successfully defend Max. So that's something fun to watch. So it's not a complete snooze fest. And even to that fact in the front, where if the VSC had not come, or if the Ferrari had used the VAC perfectly, that would have been a very fun race at the end. So what I'm trying to say is, at least for now, the races look good on Sundays, but on Saturdays something needs to be done. Something needs to be changed, and I hope they will make it, at least for the sake of fans, because the fans are everything to this sport. And then eventually, if you only get credits, if you only get stakes for the race but not for qualifying, that is a very, very bad disaster for Formula 1. And yeah, that's my only hope, and that's the one thing which I was not comfortable with, especially in the qualifying. It should eventually change. And in the races, I think we will look out how it pans out in the next few races. And yeah, for me, especially to point out in the qualifying, if we consider the tracks like Baku or Monza or Vegas or the next race in China, the long straights that we have, imagine the cars just park at the side of the track, recharge the battery, and then they go again. That's something I'm scared about, you know what I mean? And you're on a huge straight in this Monza or in Vegas, and then the battery dies out. You are in some 300 to 310 km per hour, and then you drop out all the way to 80, 90 km per hour, which is the pit lane speed. In the straight, you're not even approaching the corner, and then you just do that and then harvest the battery, and then you proceed. In qualifying, in the push lap, it's not even an out lap, it's a push lap. And yeah, F1 should be ready for all of this. I don't know if they have considered this. Looks really bad for now at the moment. And some of the other highlights and mentions during the race. A brilliant work by Audi. Nicely done. A big shout out to them. They managed to get the points in the first race of the season. I mean, as a works team, it's their first season and a brand new power unit. So we know how it pans out, but their race weekend was really good. They did not manage to start the race with Nico Hülkenberg, but Bortoleto managed to get the first points for them in the season. So now the midfields being very, very close, with Alpine up there, with Racing Bulls up there, with Haas up there. Yeah, it's impressive how Audi managed to fend them off and get P9, and a brilliant drive from Bortoleto as well. I mean, he's one of the most brilliant talents on the grid when it comes to outright speed and pace. So he's very hardworking, one of the hardworking young guys on the grid. So he executed the race perfectly, and now he managed to get the first points for his team and for also himself. So big congratulations to him. And also first points for Arvid Lindblad. I mean, this guy, he also had a very good race start. He managed to get P4 at the start of the race, but then the Racing Bulls, it was a no match to the Mercedes Kimi Antonelli and the McLaren and the Red Bull of Verstappen. So, but then he managed to fight it out with Behrman, which was a much better Haas compared to the Racing Bulls, but he managed to do it. He grabbed the points for him and for the Racing Bulls as well. And the way he dominated Lawson this race was brilliant. I think he's also one of the rookies to watch out for. He's the only rookie on the grid, but he's one of the drivers to watch out for this season. I think he's gonna shine brilliantly, and personally I am rooting for him with other couple of drivers. So I'm very much looking forward to him having good races and having brilliant drives over the course of the season. And also a big shout out to Gasly and Alpine. They managed to score points in the first race of the season. So Alpine looked decent, but then when the first practice sessions panned out, they were not right up there with Racing Bulls and Haas, but then they managed to do it. And Gasly managed to do it. He grabbed the first points for Alpine and for him. So a big congratulations to him as well. And also Behrman, I felt he continued where he left off last season. So he also grabbed the first points for Haas this race and for this season, and I think he's only getting better. Oli Berman. I mean, he's that consistent guy. Since Austin, he was decent, and then since Mexico, he was great. And he was great this race. And for me personally, the one part of the race which I enjoyed and had genuine fun was Lindblad versus Berman. The kind of strategies they were building up for themselves, the kind of overtakes they did, the kind of defense they did against each other, and trying to work out with the battery and how to plan the overtakes or defense between them was something fun. I mean, for me, in a bigger picture, I think it looks good for the midfield teams and for us as a fans to watch this out. The midfield teams battling out this season should be fun, especially Haas, Audi, Racing Bulls right up there. And then if Williams manage to sort their overweight issues, they will also be close to the pack. So yeah, that was genuinely fun. And like I mentioned, Berman and Gasly also was there. But yeah, two young British drivers, one rookie and then one second season rookie. So battling it out for the points in the top 10 was something fun. I look forward to these kind of races and tussles in the next part of the season. And then also, yeah, we definitely have to mention Isaac Hadjar. He was brilliantly doing it in P4. He managed to get the place back from Lindblad, and he was there in P4. Yeah, he was not challenging the Mercedes or the Ferraris, but then he was there. But yeah, the reliability concerns, it had to get to him, and that was so sad. He had a heartbreaking race last season as well, where he spun out even before the race started, and now when he brilliantly got it together, Max Verstappen crashing out in qualifying, and then as a second Red Bull driver, he took the responsibility and put that car higher up on the grid. P3 was impressive from him. So I think Verstappen would have been P3, but still very much closer to the Mercedes, maybe 4/10 or something. But yeah, he did what he could only do as a second Red Bull driver with that Red Bull and against those Mercedes. So, but then seeing him, yeah, losing the race with reliability problems was not so good. I think reliability concern is there for Red Bull at the moment, and that could also hinder Max at some point during the season, at the start at least. So I hope they fix those problems, because Hadjar is proving to be one of the best or good drivers on the grid. I think he carries onto that, and the car should help him, the team should help him eventually. So that's it. That was it. My highlights, my honest opinions on the Australian Grand Prix. Like I said, some bad things, good things we had to discuss about, and I let out my opinions and my honest review, how I felt about it. But then we have a back-to-back race weekends. The next weekend, the Chinese Grand Prix. The race should be fun, but yeah, the major thing I'm looking forward to is the qualifying. Like I said, I don't know how the cars will behave, how the engine is gonna work out for the drivers, but let's see. That's something to talk about in the next video. But if you have liked this video, give it a like, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon with my Chinese Grand Prix predictions. Cheers.